The cargo vessel's Promise moved slowly through the dark space between stars. It was an old ship, patched and repaired many times, carrying supplies from one colony to another. The crew was small, only 12 humans working together in the tight spaces of the ship. Park wiped sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the maintenance tunnel. Something was wrong with the air system. The filters were clogging too fast, and the temperature in the lower decks kept dropping. He had checked everything twice, but the problem continued. He was a big man with rough hands and tired eyes. 20 years of fixing ships had taught him that problems never fix themselves. So he grabbed his tools and went deeper into the ship, following the ventilation pipes that carried air to every room. The tunnel was dark and narrow, used his small flashlight to see ahead. The metal walls made strange sounds as the ship moved, creaking and groaning like a living thing. He had heard these sounds 1,000 times before. They did not scare him. But the new sound made him stop. It was soft, almost too quiet to hear, a scratching noise like claws on metal, then a small cry high and weak like a hurt animal. Held his breath and listened. The sound came again, somewhere ahead of him in the darkness. He moved forward slowly, his heart beating faster. The rules of space travel were clear about strange sounds. Strange sounds meant danger, could be a broken pipe, could be an electrical fire, could be something worse. The ventilation shaft opened into a small space where several pipes came together, pointed his flashlight inside, and felt his whole body go cold. 3 pairs of eyes stared back at him. They glowed amber in the light, round and large, set in faces covered with dark fur. The creatures pressed together in the corner, their small bodies shaking. Knew what they were immediately. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the. They were monsters. That was what the stories said. There were hunters, killers, beasts that walked on 4 legs and stood 8 feet tall when grown. Their claws could cut through ship walls. Their teeth could crush bone. They raided human colonies and left nothing but blood behind. But these were not monsters. These were bobbies. Cubs no bigger than dogs, with 2 large paws and ears that flopped when they moved. They looked at with eyes full of fear, and the smallest one made that crying sound again. Did not move, he barely breathed. His mind raced through possibilities. How did cubs get on a human ship? Where was their mother? What would happen if the crew found out? The answer to the last question was simple. The Dominion controlled this sector of space. They had strict laws about any human caught helping would be executed. No trial, no questions, just death. Should have called the captain right away. He should have reported the stowaways and let someone else decide what to do. That was the smart choice, the safe choice. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his lunch. A simple protein bar, nothing special. He broke it into pieces and tossed one toward the cubs. The smallest cub sniffed the food carefully. Then slowly it crept forward and ate. The other 2 watched with desperate eyes. Threw them more pieces until all 3 cubs were eating. They made small happy sounds as they chewed, and for a moment they did not look like monsters at all. They looked like hungry children. Sat back and rubbed his face with his hands. He was in trouble now, deep trouble. He found Captain in the command room, staring at star maps and drinking cold coffee. The captain was a quiet man in his 50s, with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen many difficult things. He listened without speaking as told him about the cubs. When finished, the captain was silent for a long time. Then he stood up and said one word. "Show me." They crawled through the tunnels together, the captain moving slower than but never complaining. When they reached the hiding place, the cubs were still there. They had not moved. They looked even more scared now, seeing 2 humans instead of 1. Captain studied them with careful eyes. His face showed nothing of what he was thinking. "How long have they been here?" he asked. "I do not know, days maybe. They are very thin, very weak." "The last station we visited was Relay Post 17. Raiders hit it 2 weeks ago." The captain paused. The reports said there were no survivors. Understood. The cubs must have hidden during the attack. When the human ship came to help with rescue efforts, they must have sneaked aboard, looking for food or safety or both. They are just bobbies, said. They probably watched their mother die. The captain did not respond to that. He kept looking at the cubs, his expression impossible to read. We have to tell the crew, said. We have to decide what to do. I will tell them. Call a meeting in 1 hour. The meeting did not go well. When the crew saw the cubs on the video screen, some of them shouted in fear. Others demanded that the creatures be thrown out of the airlock immediately. The navigation officer was the loudest voice against keeping them. Do you know what will happen if the Dominion finds out? She said, her face red with anger. They will kill us, all of us, for 3 animals that will grow up to be killers anyway. They are children, said Shin, the medical officer. She was a small woman with gentle hands and soft voice. I have studied biology. At this age they cannot survive alone. If we put them out, they will die. Good, said, better them than us. The argument continued for an hour. Voices grew louder. People said angry words. The crew was divided, half wanting to save the cubs and half wanting to protect themselves. Through it all, Captain said nothing. He sat in his chair and listened, letting everyone speak. Finally, when the shouting died down, he stood up. The room went quiet. I have heard all of your thoughts, he said. Now hear mine. I became a captain because I wanted to do the right thing even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. He looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. These cubs did not choose to be born. They did not choose to lose their mother. They did not choose to hide on our ship. They are children, alone and afraid, and they came to us. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was firm. We will not kill children. Not today. Not ever. We will keep them hidden, we will feed them, and we will figure out what to do next. Anyone who disagrees can file a complaint when we reach the next port. No one filed a complaint. That night brought more food to the cubs. This time, they did not hide from him. The smallest one even walked up to his hand and sniffed it carefully before taking the offered meat. Felt something strange in his chest, something warm. I do not know if we are doing the right thing, he whispered to the cubs. But I know that leaving you to die would be wrong, so we will try. We will all try together. The smallest cub made a soft sound and pressed its head against his palm. Its fur was softer than he expected. In the darkness of the ship, surrounded by metal and stars and danger, a strange new family began to form. None of them knew yet how much this moment would change. None of them could imagine what the future would bring. But for now, 3 lost cubs were no longer alone, and that was enough. The weeks passed slowly on this promise. The ship continued its journey through the empty darkness between stars, carrying its cargo and its secret. The crew fell into a new routine, one that now included 3 growing cubs. Shin was the first to give them names. She spent the most time with the cubs, checking their health and making sure they were eating enough. The female cub, the bravest of the 3, she called. The largest male, who was always watching and thinking, she named. And the smallest one, the one who had first eaten from his hand, became. At first, the cubs stayed in their hiding place in the ventilation system. The crew brought them food and water, but the cubs were too scared to come out. They would press against the back wall whenever someone approached, their amber eyes wide with fear. But cubs are curious creatures, no matter what species they are. After 2 weeks, started following through the maintenance tunnels. The little cub would stay 3 steps behind, stopping whenever looked back, pretending to be interested in something else. Smiled and kept walking, letting the cub explore at his own pace. Soon joined her brother. Then, within a month, the 3 cubs were wandering freely through the ship, always staying in the less used corridors, always ready to run and hide if danger came. The crew got used to seeing them. Even, who had argued so strongly against keeping them, started leaving small treats in places where the cubs would find them. She never admitted to doing it, but everyone knew. The youngest member of the crew became's favorite person. Was only 20 years old, fresh from her training academy, full of energy and kindness. She would sit in the cargo bay for hours, talking to the cubs even though they could not understand her words. Or so everyone thought. The discovery came on a quiet evening. Was in the medical bay writing her daily report about the cubs. She noted their weight, their growth, the condition of their fur and claws. She had been keeping careful records since the beginning, treating her observations like a scientific study. Was lying in the corner of the room, watching her with half-closed eyes. He had become comfortable in the medical bay, perhaps because always had food ready for him. Finished her writing and stretched her arms above her head. "Done for today," she said to herself. "Done," said a rough voice behind her. Spun around so fast she nearly fell from her chair. Was still lying in the same spot, but his eyes were now fully open. He was looking directly at her. "Did you just speak?" whispered. Tilted his head. His mouth moved strangely, his throat making sounds it was never designed to make. "Speak," he said. "Done today." His hands were shaking as she reached for her communication device. She called Captain immediately. Within an hour, the whole crew had gathered in the cargo bay. The 3 cubs sat in the center, surrounded by humans who looked at them with new eyes. And looked back, their expressions hard to read but clearly aware that something important was happening. "Show them," said to, "show them what you can do." His amber eyes moved across the watching faces. Then he opened his mouth and spoke. "Hello, my name is..." The words were rough and broken, but they were words, real words, human words. The crew stood in shocked silence. There were supposed to be animals, smart animals, dangerous animals, but still animals. The Dominion had told everyone that they could not learn language. They could not think like civilized beings. They were beasts, nothing more. But here was a cub, barely 4 months old, speaking like a child learning to talk. "How is this possible?" someone asked. Shook her head slowly. "I do not know. I have been studying them, watching them grow. Their brains are different from what the Dominion reports say, much more complex, much more capable." Stepped forward. She had been watching, as she always did. Now she looked at the young woman and made a sound that was clearly trying to be a word. Said "friend." Covered her mouth with her hands. Tears were forming in her eyes. From that day forward, everything changed. The crew began teaching the cubs with purpose, brought out her personal tablet and showed them pictures with words beneath them. Tree, ship, star, food. The cubs learned each word after seeing it only a few times. Their memories were incredible, holding onto information like sponges holding water. Taught them about the ship. He showed them the engines, the power systems, the life support machines that kept everyone alive. Was especially interested in these lessons. He would ask questions in his broken speech, wanting to understand how everything worked. A quiet crewman who rarely talked to anyone became's teacher. He showed the smallest cub how to play games on the computer, simple puzzles that were meant for children. Solved them quickly, then looked at with eager eyes, wanting more challenges. The cubs learned more than words and games. They learned how humans live together. They watched the crew share meals, help each other with work, comfort each other when things were hard. They saw bandage a cut on's hand and heard the gentle words she used. They saw carry heavy boxes for the older crewmen who could not lift them alone. These things confused the cubs at first. In society, the strong did not help the weak. The strong took what they wanted, and the weak either served them or died. That was the natural way, the only way they had ever known. But humans did things differently. One day was playing in the corridor when he bumped into. The cub was much larger now, almost the size of a large dog, and the impact knocked against the wall. The human hit his head and fell to the ground, bleeding. The old way would have been simple, was weak. He had been hurt, could have ignored him or worse. No one would have blamed a cub for following its nature. But did not follow his nature. He stood frozen, staring at the blood on his face. Then he ran. The crew thought at first that had run away in fear or guilt, but minutes later the cub returned, dragging a blanket in his teeth. He pushed the blanket toward, making worried sounds. Came running when she heard the noise. She found curled around his body, keeping him warm, refusing to leave his side. "He is sorry," said, translating the sounds was making. "He is so sorry. He did not mean to hurt." His injury was not serious, cleaned the wound and told him to rest, but would not leave. For 3 days the cub stayed beside his bed. He brought him water. He whined whenever seemed uncomfortable. He slept on the floor next to him, one massive paw always touching the human's hand. On the 3rd night, woke up to find watching him with those amber eyes. "I am okay," said softly. "You do not need to worry." Pressed his head against the chest. "Pack," the cub said, the word coming out rough but clear. "You are Pack. Pack protects Pack." Lay there in the darkness, his hand resting on the head of a creature that was supposed to be a monster. He felt the cub's warmth, heard the soft sound of his breathing, and understood something important. The Dominion had lied, or maybe the Dominion had never bothered to learn the truth. They were not mindless beasts. They were intelligent beings with the ability to grow, to learn, to change. All they needed was someone to show them a different way. The crew of this promise had shown them that different way, and the cubs had chosen to follow it. In her medical bay, looked at her notes and wondered what all of this meant. The Dominion controlled information about every species in the galaxy. They decided who was civilized and who was savage. They made the rules that humans had to follow. But what if those rules were based on lies? What if they had always been capable of this, and no one had ever given them the chance? Did not know the answers, but she knew that what was happening on this small ship was something special, something that could change everything if only the right people could see it. She looked at the cubs sleeping in the corner, their bodies tangled together, peaceful and safe. "What are you becoming?" she whispered to them. "And what will the galaxy do when they find out?" The cubs did not answer. They just slept, dreaming whatever dreams cubs dream, unaware that their very existence was becoming a challenge to everything the galaxy believed. The alarm screamed through the ship like a wounded animal. Red lights flashed in every corridor, every room, every hidden corner where the cubs liked to sleep. Captain was on the bridge before the second alarm cycle, his eyes fixed on the sensor display. A ship was approaching, a big ship, a warship. "How did they find us?" asked, her fingers flying across her control panel. "We are nowhere near space." "They have been tracking us," said from his station. His face was pale. "Maybe since we left Relay Post 17. Maybe they knew the cubs were there. Maybe they were waiting to see who took them." Captain said nothing. He watched the approaching ship grow larger on the screen. It was a predator vessel built for speed and violence. Its hull was covered in sharp angles and weapon ports. Even from this distance, it looked hungry. "They are hailing us," said. "Put them through." The main screen flickered, and a face appeared. It was a fully grown 8 feet of muscle and fur and teeth. A long scar ran across one of his eyes, and his remaining eye burned with cold fury. He wore armor decorated with bones and metal symbols that marked him as a clan leader. "Human vessel," they said. His voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. "I am the unyielding commander of the. You have something that belongs to my clan." Captain stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back. His voice was calm when he spoke. "I do not know what you're talking about. We are a cargo vessel carrying supplies. We have nothing of yours." Laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Do not lie to me, human. We have been watching you since the relay station. We know you took this offspring, 3 cubs hidden on your ship being raised by prey animals. His lip curled back, showing massive fangs. You have corrupted them, made them weak, made them forget what they are. We have done nothing of the sort, Captain said. Then you will not mind if we come aboard and see for ourselves. Leaned closer to the screen. Refuse, and I will tear your ship apart piece by piece. I will eat your crew while they still breathe, and then I will take back what is mine anyway. The screen went dark. The crew stood in shocked silence. Everyone knew the stories about boarding parties, the violence, the cruelty, the bodies left behind. We cannot fight them, said. Her voice was shaking. Our weapons are nothing against a warship. We cannot run either, added. They are faster than us. They would catch us before we reach the next system. Captain looked at his crew, at the faces of people he had worked with for years. They were scared. He could not blame them. He was scared too. But he thought about the cubs, about the way they had learned and grown, about the way had stayed with for 3 days, refusing to leave a hurt friend, about the word that had become so important to all of them. Pack. Where are the cubs now? He asked. Engine room, said. I sent them there when the alarm started. It is the most protected part of the ship. Captain nodded. Take me to them. The engine room was warm and loud, filled with the hum of machines that kept the ship alive. The 3 cubs were huddled in the corner, pressed together the same way they had been when first found them. But they were not small anymore. Was nearly 4 feet tall at the shoulder now. Her brothers were almost as big. Their baby fur had been replaced by sleek adult coats, and their claws had grown sharp and strong. But their eyes were the same, wide, scared, looking to the humans for answers. Was with them, sitting on the floor beside, one hand resting on the cub's massive head. She looked up when the captain entered. They know, she said. They understand what is happening. Captain walked over and knelt in front of the cubs. He had spent months learning to read their expressions, their sounds, their body language. Right now, they looked like children who knew monsters were coming for them. He said gently, "Can you tell me what you are thinking?" His throat moved as she formed words. Her speech had improved so much over the months, but it still took effort. She said, "He was Mother's mate. He is leader of clan, very strong, very cruel." "He wants to take you back," Captain said. Shook his head violently. "Back is bad, back is forgetting. They will make us forget words, forget gentle, make us hunters again, only hunters. They will hurt us," added quietly, "punish us for becoming soft, for loving prey." The word hit Captain like a fist. Loving. The cubs had learned to love. They loved this ship. They loved this crew. They loved the humans who had fed them and taught them and treated them like family instead of animals. And now that family was being threatened. "I will not let them take you," Captain said. "I promise you that." "But you cannot fight them," said. Her amber eyes were wet. "They are too strong, too many. If you try to protect us, they will kill all of you." She pressed her head against the shoulder. "We do not want you to die for us. You are Pack. Pack protects Pack. We will let him take us. If that keeps you safe, we will do it." "No," said sharply. She grabbed his face in both hands, looking directly into those amber eyes. "No, you do not get to give up. You do not get to sacrifice yourself. That is not how this works. But listen to me, you are not just cubs anymore. You are something new, something the galaxy has never seen before. And if we let him turn you back into what you were, then everything we have done together means nothing." Was crying now, tears running down her face. "You taught me that strength is not about claws or teeth. You taught me that the bravest thing anyone can do is choose to be gentle when the world wants you to be cruel. You taught me that. You and your brothers. And I am not going to let anyone take that away from you." The cubs were silent. They looked at Captain, who stood by the door with tears in his own eyes. "What do we do?" asked. "How do we fight something we cannot beat?" Captain stood up slowly. An idea was forming in his mind. A crazy idea, a dangerous idea, but maybe, just maybe, it could work. "We do not fight with weapons," he said. "We fight with something stronger." "What is stronger than weapons?" asked. Captain looked at the three cubs, at the creatures who had come to them as frightened stowaways and become beloved members of their family. "The truth," he said, "the truth is stronger than weapons, and we are going to show the entire galaxy what you really are." He turned to, "How long before ship reaches us?" 2 hours, maybe less." "That is enough time." Captain walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at the cubs. "Get ready, all of you. In 2 hours, you are going to speak to more people than you can imagine, and you are going to change everything." Stood up on her powerful legs. Her fear was still there, but something else was growing in her eyes now, something that looked like hope. "What do we say?" she asked. Captain smiled. "The truth. Just tell them the truth about who you are and what you have become. Let them see that the Dominion has been wrong about you. Let them see that they are not monsters." He paused, his smile growing wider. "Let them see that sometimes all it takes to change a predator into a friend is a little bit of kindness." The cubs looked at each other, then slowly nodded. "We will do it," she said. "We will tell them everything." And in the engine room of a small cargo ship, surrounded by humans who had become family, 3 cubs began preparing for the moment that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. Worked faster than she had ever worked in her life. Her fingers danced across the communication controls, connecting wires, boosting signals, doing things with the ship's systems that she had never tried before. "This is crazy," she muttered to herself. "This is completely crazy." But she kept working. The plan was simple. Instead of sending a private message they would open a channel to every relay station in the sector, every communication satellite, every ship, every colony, every Dominion monitoring post within range. The broadcast would spread like fire through dry grass and shared across the galaxy before anyone could stop it. "Are you sure the signal will reach that far?" Captain asked. Looked up from her work. Her eyes were red from stress and lack of sleep. "It will reach far enough. The Dominion monitors everything. Once they pick it up, they will spread it themselves trying to analyze it, and from there," she shrugged, "people talk, people share. If this message is interesting enough, it will reach billions of viewers within days." "It will be interesting," said, "trust me on that." Down in the cargo bay, the crew was preparing the stage. They pushed boxes aside to create an open space, set up lights so the cameras would capture everything clearly, arranged medical supplies nearby just in case something went wrong. The cubs watched all of this with nervous eyes, paced back and forth, her claws clicking on the metal floor. Sat very still, his gaze turned inward like he was practicing words in his head. Stayed close to, pressing against the human's leg for comfort. "Are you scared?" asked the small cub. Looked up at him with those amber eyes. "Very scared," he admitted, "but says being brave is not about not being scared. Being brave is doing the right thing even when you are scared." Smiled and scratched behind's ear, the spot that always made the cub's leg twitch with pleasure. "Is a smart woman." "Yes, very smart. That is why loves her so much." The word came so naturally now. Love. The cubs used it all the time, talking about the crew, talking about each other, talking about this ship that had become their home. It was a human word, a human concept, and they had made it their own. Captain's voice came through the speakers. "We are ready up here. Says the signal is as strong as she can make it. Ship will be in weapon range in 40 minutes. Took a deep breath. "Then we better start." She helped the cubs move into position. Stood in the center, her brothers on either side. Behind them, the crew of this Promise arranged themselves in a half circle, their faces serious and determined. The camera light turned red. His voice came through the speaker, quiet and tense. "We are live. The signal is going out to everywhere. Everyone is watching." For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The weight of what they were about to do pressed down on all of them. Then stepped forward. She was beautiful in a terrifying way, this creature that had grown from a scared cub into something magnificent. Her fur gleamed in the lights. Her eyes caught the glow and turned golden. When she opened her mouth, her fangs showed, long and sharp and deadly. But her voice, when it came, was not the voice of a monster. "My name is," she said. The words were rough but clear, every syllable careful and deliberate. "I am daughter of clan, born to hunt, born to kill. That is what my people believe. That is what the galaxy believes." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "They are wrong." Across the galaxy, billions of eyes watched. On trade stations and colony worlds, on Dominion warships and human settlements, people stopped what they were doing and stared at their screens. A was speaking. Not growling, not roaring, but speaking real words in a human language. It was impossible. Everyone knew it was impossible. And yet there it was. "I was born on a hunting ship," continued. "My first memories are of blood and screaming. My mother taught me that soft things were prey, weak things were food. The only law was strength and the only good was victory." Her voice grew quieter. "Then I became alone. My mother died. My brothers and I had no one. We were hungry and scared and lost. We hid on a human ship because we had nowhere else to go." She turned and looked at the crew behind her. "These humans could have killed us. The Dominion law says they should have killed us. We were enemy children, monsters from a species that had hurt their people. Killing us would have been easy, safe, legal." She turned back to the camera. "Instead, they fed us. They gave us warm places to sleep. They taught us words and ideas that we had never known before. They showed us a different way to live." Stepped forward to stand beside his sister. "The humans taught us that strength does not come from claws," he said. His voice was deeper than rougher, but just as clear. "Real strength comes from choosing to be gentle. Real power is using your size and skill to protect the weak, not destroy them." He lifted one massive paw and looked at it. "I could kill every human on this ship. My claws are sharp. My teeth are strong. I am." He lowered his paw. "But I would never hurt them. They are my pack, my family. I would die to protect them just as they have risked their lives to protect us." Now came forward, the smallest of the three, but somehow the one whose words carried the most weight. "I hurt my friend once," said. His voice was soft, almost shy. "I bumped into him and made him bleed. In my old life with my old people, that would mean nothing. The weak get hurt. That is normal." He turned to look at, who stood among the crew with tears on his cheeks. "But when I saw his blood, I felt something I had never felt before. Pain in my chest, water in my eyes. The humans call this feeling sadness. They call it guilt. They call it caring about someone other than yourself." He turned back to the camera. "I stayed with until he was better. I brought him blankets. I kept him warm. I did not do these things because someone ordered me to. I did them because I love him, because he is pack, because that is what good beings do." His voice grew stronger. "The Dominion says we are animals, monsters, things that cannot feel, cannot think, cannot change. They tell everyone that must be feared and hated and destroyed." His amber eyes blazed. "But I feel, I think, I have changed. We have all changed. Not because someone forced us, but because someone showed us kindness. Someone treated us like we mattered." Stepped forward again, speaking for all three of them now. "We do not know what will happen after this message ends. A warship is coming for us. Their commander wants to take us back, to punish us for becoming soft, to make us forget everything we have learned." Her voice did not waver. "We will not go back. We will not forget. Even if they kill us, they cannot take away what we have become. They cannot take away the truth." She looked at the camera, and it felt like she was looking at every single viewer personally. The truth is that we are not monsters. We are intelligent beings who were never given a chance to be anything else. We were raised in violence because violence was all we knew. We were taught to hate because hate was all we were shown. Her voice rose. But these humans showed us something different. They showed us love, and love changes everything. She gestured to the crew behind her. Look at them. Look at these soft, weak humans who they call prey. They risked their lives for 3 enemy children. They broke Dominion law to save us. They gave us food from their own mouths and warmth from their own bodies. Her voice cracked with emotion. That is not weakness. That is the greatest strength I have ever seen, and I am proud, so proud to call them my family. The camera stayed on her face, on the tears that were forming in those amber eyes, on the expression that no one had ever seen on a face before. Love, pure, unmistakable love. We are not asking for your help, said finally. We are not asking you to save us. We only ask that you see us, really see us. See that we can be more than what we were born to be. See that kindness is not weakness. See that the universe is bigger and stranger and more beautiful than anyone told you. She took a deep breath. We are, and of this promise, we are who learn to love, and whatever happens next, we want the galaxy to know that we existed, that we were real, that change is possible. She bowed her head. Thank you for listening. The camera light turned off. His voice came through the speaker, breathless with shock. The broadcast went everywhere. Every relay station picked it up. The Dominion networks are going crazy. People are sharing it on every platform, every channel, every world. Billions of viewers and counting. Captain looked at the cubs. You did it, he said. Whatever happens now, you made your voices heard. Walked over to him on her massive legs. She was taller than him now, able to look down at the man who had saved her life. But she lowered her head until they were eye to eye. We learned our voices from you, she said. All of you. You gave us the words, you gave us the courage, you gave us the reason to speak. She pressed her forehead against his. Thank you, Captain, for everything. The moment was broken by the alarm. Ship had arrived. The battle was about to begin. But something had already changed. Across the galaxy, people were watching. People were talking. People were starting to question everything they had been told. The roar had been heard through every vent, every corridor, every corner of known space. And nothing would ever be the same. The warriors came through the hull like fire through paper. Their cutting torches sliced through metal as if it were water. The sound of their roars echoed through the corridors of this promise, filled with rage and hunger. Had not waited to negotiate. He had watched the broadcast, seen his clan's cubs speaking human words, crying human tears, and his fury had grown beyond control. These cubs had been the children of his mate. They were supposed to become hunters, leaders, terrors of the galaxy. Instead, they had become soft things that talked about love. It was an insult that could only be answered with blood. 20 warriors boarded the ship. 20 massive in battle armor, their claws extended, their teeth bared. They moved through the corridors like a tide of death, searching for the humans who had stolen their young. They did not find cowering prey. The first warrior came around a corner and stopped in shock, stood in the middle of the corridor alone, her amber eyes fixed on him. She was not running, she was not hiding, she was waiting. The warrior was twice her size and covered in scars from 100 battles. He laughed, a cruel sound that echoed off the metal walls. Little cub, he growled in the tongue, your softness has made you stupid. Do you think you can stop me? Did not move. I do not want to stop you, she said, speaking the old language perfectly. I want to talk to you. The warrior laughed again and charged. What happened next went against everything they believed about strength, moved with speed that surprised even herself, ducking under the warrior's swing and spinning behind him. Her claws came out, but she did not strike to kill. She struck at his legs, his shoulders, the weak points in his armor. Within seconds, the warrior was on the ground, pinned beneath her weight. "I do not want to hurt you," said, holding him down. "I could kill you right now. My claws are at your throat, but I am choosing not to." The warrior struggled, but he could not escape. Was younger but faster, trained by months of playing with humans who had taught her how to restrain without injuring. "Why?" the warrior asked. "Why would you spare prey?" "You are not prey," said. "You are my people. You are, and I am trying to show you that there is another way." She leaned closer. "All your life, you have been told that strength means killing, that power means dominance. But what if that is wrong? What if the real strength is choosing to save a life instead of taking one?" The warrior stared up at her with confused eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever beaten him in combat and then refused to claim victory. "You could be more than this," said. "You could be more than rage and blood. I am proof of that. I was just like you once, and then someone showed me kindness." She released him and stepped back. "Now I am showing you." Throughout the ship, the same scene repeated. Met 3 warriors in the engine room, and instead of a battle to the death, he danced around them, using their own weight against them, pinning them one by one. Found 2 more in the cargo bay and did something no had ever done before. He sat down in front of them and started talking. He told them about the accident, about staying by his friend's bed for 3 days, about learning what it meant to care about someone else. The warriors stood frozen, unsure how to respond to a cub who would not fight. The humans played their part too. Captain moved through the ship with a medical kit, bandaging wounds on warriors who had been subdued, treated their injuries with gentle hands, speaking softly even though they could not understand her words. Found one warrior trapped under a fallen beam and worked for an hour to free him, even though the warrior kept threatening to kill him. "I know you could hurt me," said calmly, "but I am not going to let you die trapped under a piece of metal. That is not who we are." When the beam finally lifted and the warrior stood free, he looked at the small human who had saved him. "Why?" he asked, the same question the others were asking. "Why help your enemy?" Smiled. "Because you are not my enemy. You are just someone who has never been shown another way." By the time fought his way to the cargo bay, his warriors were scattered and confused. Some were restrained, held down by cubs who refused to kill them. Others were sitting in stunned silence, trying to understand what had happened. A few were actually helping humans clear debris, their battle rage fatting into something like curiosity. Roared when he saw the scene. This was not a battle. This was chaos. His warriors had been defeated not by violence but by something he could not understand. Stepped forward to face him. "Hello, father," she said. His remaining eye burned with fury. He was the largest any of them had ever seen, a mountain of muscle and hate. "You are not my daughter," he growled. "My daughter died the moment she learned to speak prey words. You are an abomination." "Maybe," said calmly, "but I am an abomination who still has a choice, and I am choosing to give you one too." She gestured around the room, at the humans and standing together, at the warriors who were no longer fighting. "Look at them, father. Look at what is happening. Your warriors are confused because we did not kill them. They do not understand mercy. They have never seen it before." She stepped closer too, showing no fear even though he was twice her size. "But they are starting to understand. They are starting to ask questions. That is all it takes for change to begin. One question, one moment of doubt, one act of kindness that makes no sense." Raised his claws, ready to strike. "I will end this abomination myself," he snarled. "You can try," said. "Maybe you will kill me. Maybe you will kill all of us. But the broadcast has already gone out. Billions of beings have seen us. They have heard us speak. They know that can learn and grow and change." Her voice grew stronger. You can destroy this ship, but you cannot destroy what we have started. The truth is out there now, and truth is harder to kill than any warrior. Hesitated. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eye. Before he could decide what to do, new alarms began to sound. Dominion ships were arriving, responding to the broadcast that had set the galaxy on fire. Peacekeepers, investigators, journalists, all converging on this small cargo vessel in the middle of nowhere. The crew had been saved not by weapons but by attention. The whole galaxy was watching now, and even knew that slaughtering humans on camera would bring consequences his clan could not survive. He lowered his claws. "This is not over," he promised. "No," she agreed, "it is just beginning." The aftermath changed everything. The Dominion opened investigations into their classification of primitive species. Politicians demanded answers. Scientists requested permission to study the cubs. Religious leaders debated what it meant for beings to change their fundamental nature. And something unprecedented happened. Some clans called the cubs traitors and demanded their execution, but others began to wonder, could they really have been wrong about their own nature all along? Could there be another way to live? The crew of this promise was allowed to go free. More than that, they were celebrated as heroes on a dozen worlds, humans who had done the impossible by raising enemies as family. Captain turned down every offer for interviews and book deals. He just wanted to keep flying his ship, doing his work, living his life. The cubs stayed with him, of course. They had made their choice long ago. On the night before they left the station where the investigations had been held, found the captain sitting alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You are quiet," she said, settling down beside him. She was fully grown now, massive and powerful, but she still moved carefully around her human family. "Just thinking," he said. "About what?" He turned to look at her, this creature that had started as a scared cub hiding in the vents and become something wonderful. "I keep wondering why this worked, why kindness was enough to change everything. It seems too simple." Considered the question for a long time. "Maybe it is simple," she finally said. "Maybe that is the point. Hate is complicated. Violence requires training and weapons and reasons. But kindness," she paused, "kindness just requires choosing to see someone as worthy of love." She pressed her massive head against his shoulder, the gesture of absolute trust. "You saw us when we were lost and scared and alone. You could have seen enemies, monsters, animals. Instead, you saw children, and you chose to love us." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "That is the strongest thing anyone has ever done for us, and it changed everything." Captain put his hand on her head, feeling the soft fur, the warmth of the creature who had become like a daughter to him. "Will the galaxy really change?" he asked. "Or will everyone just go back to the way things were?" Thought about the question. She thought about the warriors who had started asking questions, about the cubs on distant worlds who would hear about them and wonder if they too could be different, about the humans who had seen the broadcast and started to believe that kindness could defeat violence. "Change is slow," she admitted. "It will take time. There will be setbacks. Some beings will never accept what we have become." She lifted her head and looked at the stars. "But every journey starts with a single step. Every fire starts with a single spark. We have started something, Father, something that cannot be stopped." She used the word naturally now. "Father," it felt right. "The cubs who saw us today will teach their cubs. The humans who heard our story will tell their children. And someday, maybe many years from now, beings will look back at this moment and say that this is when it all began. When the galaxy learned that monsters are just children who were never shown love." Captain smiled. "That is a beautiful thought." "It is a human thought," said. "You taught me to think this way, you taught me to hope." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift past. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, new battles to fight in the endless war between fear and love. But tonight they were family, human and prey and predator together against the darkness. And somewhere out there in the vast expanse of the galaxy, a billion beings were lying awake, thinking about three cubs who had learned to speak, learned to love, learned to change. The roars had echoed through the vents. The cubs had quietly rewritten the rules. And the universe would never be the same.